The International Committee for Safety requires me to read the following statement. Wax from Ironman 4x4 is not a professional mechanic, nor does he hold any professional certifications. His videos are for novelty purposes only. Please use extreme caution when following any of his instructions. Well, that's their opinion. Grab your tools and let's get started. Oh my goodness. Hey guys, it's Wax with Ironman 4x4. And today we're in our install shop. We got the Toyota Tacoma up on the left. I'm gonna show you how to rip this ugly stock bumper off and get our new Ironman 4x4 XO Raid front bumper bolted on. Grab your tools and we'll get started. We're in our install shop and I've got the truck up on a lift, but if you're at home working on your garage floor and you wanna jack the front of your truck up to give you a little bit of extra clearance, a couple safety things. Make sure your truck's in park, set your e-brake, and chock your rear tires because you don't want that truck moving around, falling down, squishing your face. That would be bad. All right guys, this is just a hardware overview. I've got recovery points laid out. You've got some spacers, you've got nut plates, we got brackets for the light bar, we've got our light bar grill, and all of our other hardware and spacers that are laid out. Also, the kit comes with a remote parking sensor adapter kit sitting right there. So I always like to lay everything out so I know exactly what I have to work with. Then also, little pieces don't go missing. Or you can just double check to make sure that you got everything. Because nothing's worse than getting all the way through a project and being like, did I lose that nut? Or, you know, did it just not come with my stuff? Let's check it out, take an inventory. If you've got fender flares, pull those off first. It's a 10mm socket. The bumper skin's gotta come off, so now we can start pulling all the hardware off the underside. So we've got all of our hardware out for our fender liner. And we'll get this guy, and that just slides back and out. Now we can get up behind here and loosen up this inner fender. All just pops out, get that nice and loose. On the top of this fender flare, you're gonna have a couple clips right in here, and then you've got double-sided tape up on the steel. So when you're pulling this back, try to get a flathead or a clip removal tool in there, and you want to depress that little tab. Make sure you don't break it. Although we'll be cutting that off, so it's not the end of the world if you do. And this tab up here, push in, and that slides out. Ugh, so much dirt. All right, now once we get this pulled back, now we can pull the plastic bumper piece, and it's hooked over right here. So peel that back over that plastic lug that we pulled that 10mm screw out of, and then just give it a good firm tug. It's made to pop off. You're not gonna hurt anything. There we go. That's loose on this side. Do the same on the passenger side. We'll pop the hood, pull the front grill piece off, and then all this will unclip and pull forward. All right, to pop this front grill clip off, there's two 10mm on the top. One right here, one right here. And then we're gonna pull off two of these little plastic clips out here on the wings by your headlights. So I'll rock that up. There you go. All right, so with the top unhooked, get your hand down under here and give a little tug ski poo. I regret nothing! All right, so working from right to left, driver's side to passenger side, we're gonna pop all of these clips out. Why some of these guys are easy and some are just a pain. There you go, there's one there, two, three, that's seen better days, 4, 5, and number 6. Cool. Set those aside. So before you go all Hulk smash and rip this piece off, take a pick or a screwdriver or something flat, and you want to slide that actually up underneath. Peel up, and then that plug will undo. Then pop this clip up, and I kind of like to rock back and forth because then you don't rip all the teeth out. You might bend them a little, but you won't break them. Now we can get this guy popped off. Sweetness. All right, let's get this stupid dumb piece off here. You got clips here on the side. Just kind of depress those and pull them through. So depressing, there's a clip there. There's one in here. Keep some tension on it. Pop that guy down. Just kind of want to work one side to the other. Is this really what saves you in a crash? Just these stupid... I knew it. I knew airbags was a myth. You provide me no safety. All right, the reason why I didn't pull the entire inner fender liners out is because, well, technically it's a huge pain in the butt, and non-technically it's a pain in my face. So I am going to leave the inner fender liner in and only take out the clips that I need to. We'll drop this down. Then when we get the Ironman Exo Raid bumper in, we can see how it fits. Then we will cut our inner fender liner for a complete and plush and perfect fit. Now we are going to disassemble the actual OEM reinforced aluminum bumper piece. So grab yourself a 14mm wrench and we'll pull 1, 2, and 1 on the inside makes 3 on each side. And those bad boys are on there. This would be a lot easier if I had a 3/8 power ratchet, but I don't. I have a 1/4 inch and I don't have the adapter here, so I'm gonna be doing it this way. And speaking of a 1/4, wanna hear a joke? So these 3 guys go camping and they get there to their camp spot out in the middle of nowhere. The first guy's like, I gotta take a dump. Who brought the toilet paper? And the first guy's like, I didn't bring you toilet paper. I thought you brought the toilet paper. And the second guy's like, I didn't bring you toilet paper. I thought that guy brought toilet paper. And so the dude's like, I gotta go take a crap. Where is the toilet paper? And the first guy says, don't worry about it. Just go use $1. And he says, yeah, but and he goes, don't worry about it. Just go use $1. The guy goes, yeah, but he goes, just go. If you have to go, just go use $1. He's like, fine. So the guy takes off into the woods and he's gone a really long time. Like, geez, I wonder what happened to this guy. Well, he comes stumbling back into camp. He's got crap all over his hand. I'm like, oh, sick. Like, dude, why didn't you use $1? And the guy says, that's what I was trying to tell you. All I have is 3/4, 2 dimes, a nickel. So this inner 14 flange nut, I'm gonna swap out for a socket and a ratchet. Give yourself a little bit of a room. You're gonna need a deep dish 14 socket. And once we get this guy loose and the other side loose, I think it's just gonna, I'll leave them on there just to make sure don't come falling down, but I think they'll hang on their own. These 2 inside 14s, once I get them loosened up, I'm gonna just leave them hang on a thread just as a precaution, because when you got heavy overhung load, you don't want this thing falling down, although it's probably pretty light. It's aluminum. Now that we've got all that crap removed out of the way, we can raise up our power steering cooler. Grab yourself a 12mm socket on a ratchet, and we're gonna break these 2 bolts loose. They break loose pretty easy because with the fitment of our bumper, we're gonna throw some spacers in here and lift this whole thing up for clearance. All right, these are the spacers here, these little tubes, and there's the new bolts. And we will loosen the other side so we can lift it all up. All right, I'm gonna leave that in a thread. We're gonna carefully lift this end up, slide our spacer underneath, and then drop our new bolt down. Get that guy in a couple threads. Now I can pull this side out. And that ain't going nowhere. There you go. So we'll grab a 13mm socket and an extension for the passenger side and lock it back down. Also, you kind of want to center this spacer So you can kind of see when you guide it down, you want to underneath that mounting flange. Sneak up under here. See how that moves around a lot? So just make sure it's laying flush and centered and underneath the mounting bracket so that when we do lock it down, we have as much surface area, just kind of apply even tension. We'll snug that down nice and tight. You don't have to go crazy. Grab yourself like a body clip removal tool or a flathead. We're gonna pop out these little black plastic caps. They're right here behind where the bumper is gonna mount. One's here and one's over here. And on the opposite side of the frame, on the outer side, you've got a round plastic cap. And this guy's gotta come out too. Come on, man. All right, we gotta pull this plastic cap on the outside of the frame rail directly across from that square one we just popped out. And this one, I'm gonna push this clip in from there. We'll see if I can just smash the thing out. All right, so you got these two cool looking black steel pieces, like little zippos. What you wanna do is on the driver's side, see how it's threaded, that hole right there, and this is piloted. So take it like that, feed it through the inside of the frame rail, go all the way through where the pilot sticks out, and then if you look through the front of the flange, see right in there? Now we're gonna feed, once we get the winch tray hung, we'll have a bolt that'll go right through and tie into that. It'll suck the winch tray right into the frame, super, super strong. Do the same thing over on the passenger side. Now, we're gonna grab these shim plates. There's your passenger side, there's your driver's side. And we're gonna grab that OEM flange nuts that we took off of here when we removed that aluminum bumper piece. Have those nearby and ready. We'll grab the winch tray, haul this guy up here. There we go, hang it there. Use your gut to balance. It's really the best way to do it. Now we'll take one of the nuts and we'll just catch a couple threads there to hold it in place. One on the other side. Now we can evaluate the majesty of what we have accomplished. Now that we've got the winch tray hung on the chassis mounts, I wanted to show you that the holes here are slotted or elongated, and that's gonna give you left to right adjustment. So what I try to do is line it up center on one side and then come over here to your passenger and just double check, because just because it's centered there doesn't mean that it's gonna be centered here, and it's not. So this is inboard a little bit, so we will push the bumper here, and we've got an even gap and spacing here on the driver and the passenger. So this is where we'll lock it down. If we need to come back, it's easy to loosen these up and get our adjustment, but I want to get it as close as I can right out of the gate. All right, so grab your 14mm socket and we'll get these things tightened down. Go easy on the one. We'll check the passenger side, make sure nothing walked on us. That looks good. We'll lock these down good and tight with a wrench. So last step of locking down the winch tray to the frame of the vehicle is this draw bolt. And it's gonna go through the front flange of the winch tray mount and tie in to that Zippo looking dog bone that we installed. So grab your bolt and your flat washer, and we're gonna feed our bolt through this opening here in between the two plates, and then we'll find our washer back in here. It's a little tricky because it's kind of tight clearances with the winch. But you can see here, we'll start it there. Keep pushing it back through. There we go. And then you can kind of just, you have to feel it out blindly, but that threaded hole on that Zippo is is right there, lined up almost perfect. Look at that. Awesome. Do the same thing on the other side. Then we'll grab a wrench, torque them down. So grab an 18mm ratcheting wrench, and there's not a lot of room to work here. So you can kind of cant the wrench out just a little bit, and on the back side you can kind of hold it. You see you've only got a few degrees of throw here, but we'll start to lock it down. One of my favorite things about the Ironman 4x4 XO Raid front bumper for the Tacomas and the Tundras is it's a really cool pre-runner style. Visually it's got that pre-runner aesthetic, but you don't lose any of the features of a full bumper. I really like the two-piece design because after you bolt the winch tray to the frame, it makes it really, really easy to get your winch mounted. So if you're running one of our Ironman 4x4 monster winches, we're gonna run a 9,500 pound synthetic rope winch on this truck. Couple of things to think about. First of all, go ahead, put it in free spool and pull yourself out a good length of line. You're gonna need this to run through the bumper shell through the Haas fair lead. You'll pull that through and then you can get the bumper shell hung. So that's one thing. The other thing too is you're gonna install your little square nuts into the feet of the winch. Set those in there, but don't bolt your winch right down to the winch tray. Leave it loose. I like to leave my winch loose while I'm doing all my wiring. It just makes it easier to get to things and to get my solenoid control box bolted down wherever you decide to put yours. Once I have everything set, all my wires zip tied and loomed up properly, my breather line all ran, then what I'll do, I'll set it up and get it locked down. Also, don't forget you want to put a lot of forward force on your winch when you lock down the foot mounts. All right, now let's get our recovery points installed, but to do that, we first have to pull out a couple bolts. So we're gonna take this guy out, it's a 17. And we've got to remove this lash down hook, so we'll remove these two 17mm bolts too. And we'll get this last guy here. All right, so run over to your hardware kit and grab bolts, split washers, and flat washers. And what we're going to do, so we'll set one up here. We're going to take this recovery point and this flat flange on the bottom points to the inside. We're going to slide it right up here, and that bolt will go right in there. Second bolt. And these you just want to spin down and leave them real loose because we need some adjustment because we got a bolt under here. All right, so fit the recovery point up there. Grab your stock bolt that came out from here, and we're gonna spin that guy back down. And you want to push forward, pull the thing that way because that's where the load's gonna pull from. So we'll push it all the way forward. We'll spin it down like that, get it tight. So grab an 18mm wrench and we'll tighten these guys down. Again, you want to make sure that it's all the way forward. All right, I'm gonna tighten these guys down. Get them good and tight. Spring washer is flat, but not opened up. A 17mm socket for under here. We'll get that guy locked down. There we go. Let's go do the other side. So we'll get these 17mm OEM bolts tightened back down. Got one here and one out here. I'm going to tighten the bottom bolts first because that'll draw everything up. All right, now we can unwrap our bumper shell. And before we go any further, we want to get our adjustable flip-up license plate bracket, sandwich that between the bumper shell, then put the Haas fairlead over it. Grab yourself a number 8 Allen wrench for the front of your bolt head and a 19 millimeter for the nut on the back. Flat washer, spring washer, nut. Get that all tightened down. I already did it, easy peasy. Also make sure that if you're working upside down, that you bolt your Haas upside down, or it's gonna look funny. All right, now we're gonna work on our light bar. So pick this up, flip it down nice and flat so you can see what we're doing. All right, I've got my Ironman light bar all unwrapped and ready to go. I'm gonna set it so that the start of the pigtail's over on the passenger side of the truck with the wire stretching across to the driver's side. This is just how I do it because we've got a lot of wire here and our battery on our truck's on our driver's side, so this will work out perfect with our wiring harness. Then, if you're going to run the provided grill, which I think looks awesome, it's also nice because if you bump something, then you won't smash your light up. You want to fit that over the light bar. It goes right up over those mounts on the ends. We'll flip it facing down. We'll grab your hardware. You've got 2 of these shorter bolts, split washers, flat washers, and a couple longer ones. The longer ones are for the base of the mount that goes into the bumper, and the shorter ones go in on the side. These brackets mount where they push the light forward, so install them that way. You don't want to get it backwards and have the bar set back. So the bracket wants to L forward. So we'll grab that, and then we'll kind of pull this light bar back in the bracket. Cool. Get that started with a few threads. Line that up finger tight. It's going to look something like that. We'll grab our other shorty bolt, do the same thing on the driver's side. Cool. And then run those there and there. Now we know that the light bar is going to sit in the bumper flat, so I'm going to tighten up these side bolts. So grab a 13 millimeter wrench, and we're going to get these side mount bolts snug, but we're not going to lock them down. We want a little bit of adjustability once we get it set. I'm going to lift the light bar into the bumper, pull those bolts back out of the way, run them through here, and I'm going to grab these serrated flange nuts. We'll spin those on the bottom like that. Same thing on this side. I'm going to flip the bumper upright. Rock it back towards me. And now we can see where we're at. So I've done a few of these installs, and I like to push the light bar as far back inset of the bumper as I can get it, because my thought process is if I bump into something, whether it's in the woods, if it's an accident, something like that, I want to give myself as much protection and let these round tubes do the hitting and keep the light bar nice and safe. So that's all pushed back in where it's going to be safe and sound. But don't forget, the grill is a separate piece than the light. So the grill's going to have some adjustment, and so is the light. So that's why you want to leave things, pretty snug and tight, so that when you do make an adjustment, it'll stick and you won't lose it. All right, that's looking good on that side. I'm going to grab a 13. I'm going to tighten up the base mount. Okay, that's pretty tight there. I grabbed a second 13 wrench, and now I can lock the base down nice and tight. And just as a general reference, if it makes things go faster for you, we're pretty much all the way back on the adjustability slot. All right, the light bar is in, it looks real good. Now we're gonna throw in these pod lights. So depending on what pod lights you ordered, get them out of the box and get them ready to go. This is like The entire packaging concept I came up with from my 6th grade Drop the Egg project in middle school. See, that's how we package them. So watch. Ooh. That one didn't make it. All right, first things first, when you go to put your lights together, I do this all the time to myself, so don't forget, take your mounting bolt, drop it through first, because once you get the bracket around the light, you're not gonna be able to go back and do it. You can also hang these brackets either way. If you want the light to push out a little bit more, you can hang the bracket that way, or you can do it the right way and hang it like that, which is how I'm gonna do it. Grab these Allens, number 4 Allen, split washer, spin this down into the side. Same thing on the other side. Same thing on the other side. All right, ladies and germs, that is how it should look. Now, the Exo Raid bumper kit has included 2 sets of spacers. One is this kind of smaller OD one, but it's thicker. It's a little short, chubby one. This one's a little bit thinner. We are going to use the bigger, thinner one for the little light pod. And putting this together is kind of a funky puzzle, but the way I do it is get a finger down behind here because you want to keep that bolt in the shoulders of the mounts. Then we'll grab our hardware, and we're going to put the smaller one in this slot here. Everything's kind of a tight fit, so if you can hold the bolt head with the back of your finger because you don't want it to slip out. If it slips out, then you can't get the nut on. Now we'll go spring washer. And now for the tricky part. If you can just get it to grab a thread, you'll be good to go. But getting that first thread, that's what separates the men from the boys. Yes, I'm a man. And then we'll just go slow, get her tightened down. Again, you've got a split washer on here, so if you tighten it down too much and you open up the split, the washer's useless. But we still want to get it tight. Cool. All right, same thing with your bigger 40 watt. Grab our number 4 Allen wrench, throw a split washer on this X cap screw. Almost did it. Did anybody pick up on that? Thank you for warning me. Weep. Because that would have been bad. Grab that other spacer I was showing you. Try to get a finger wedged in behind there. Drop that spacer down. And the hardware that comes with this light, you're just going to get this nylock nut. Then you don't need to worry about a spring washer. We'll grab a 13 mil wrench. Lock down pretty tight. Cool. Looks pretty good. Hey, the other thing I'll mention, see these little filler plates out here on the wings? Pretty sick little feature, nice detail. Well, we're happy to have you run those if you want, but we made them removable. So if you get in here with a 10 mil, you can pull them apart. You can even run an additional little light in there if you so desire. Can you see these plates? Good, grab them. They've got these little lollipop sticks on the bottom like that. Ooh, that's clean. What you're gonna do is you're gonna drop them down like this. Now you could argue with me on this, and frankly, you might be right. You could use the other one and go up like that, they'll fit. But then you've got this thing hanging down, and that's just not what you want. So put it up here like this. It'll hang in place. Drop the other one down here. Cool. Get your hardware all prepped. You're gonna have spring washer, flat washer. There's 6 of these, 3 for each side. Grab at least 2 if you're going to do this by yourself. But if you're doing it with a buddy, have him grab one, you grab the other. And then we will pick up the shell. Okay, smash cut to the bumper being on. So actually, I didn't fit it by myself. I grabbed Clint, he came over and helped me. You've got 3 bolts on the right side, 3 bolts on the left side. What I did was I tightened down my top bolt and my bottom bolt. So I've pulled the bumper shell as far forward on the slotted holes as I can get it so that it's sitting level all the way forward. Now, if you, depending on what your trim level is on your truck, if you've got the fender flares on it, I've just popped these 2 clips on my fender flares and kind of peeled it back so I can tuck the bumper wing inside of it, because I'm trying to find a good cut line here. And one thing to note is right about here is where the double-sided tape starts. Look, I could take this off, go down to the hardware store, buy some double-sided, tape, but I really don't want to pull this apart if I don't have to, and I feel like I've got enough flex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a straight edge and I'm going to mark here on the front and here on the back. I'm going to tape off a line, and this will give me a pretty good idea of where I want to cut. Because the fender's, peeled back and up like this, wherever you cut, you want to cut just a little bit higher so that it'll lay flat. Once we get this initial cut done, then we can make a little more finer adjustment cuts, but this is a really good starting point. That's pretty good. So I'm going to actually do my cut on the truck. I'm not going to pull the fender off. I put some foam back here to kind of space it out. I've got a little air saw that I like to use, and you just want to make sure that you keep the blade nice and far away from the new Exo Raid bumper. Throw some iPro on so you don't go blind, and yeah, go slow. So just make sure, it's kind of like a haircut. You can always take off more, but if you take too much off, you're screwed. So I started low and I'll work my way up. Now for an initial cut, this doesn't look bad, but I'm gonna need a lot more clearance here, because don't forget, your bumper's mounted to your frame. The cab is mounted on top of the frame, and it has these big, thick rubber bushings or body mounts, so there is going to be flex. So you definitely wanna section out a nice big gap so that when your truck is flexing around, because it's body on frame, that you're not gonna constantly be taking this bumper and jamming it into your bodywork, because it'll ruin it. The other thing too is if you go out and flex your truck out a little bit, you'll start to see where it's rubbing. You can always come back, clean it up later. Okay, now we got to get our plastic bumper shell cut. What I'm going to do is I laid out blue painter's tape across this section here where we're going to make our cut, and just made a template. Now, if your kit has a template included, go grab it, lay it out, follow the instructions. It's really straightforward. And if not, just go slow when you make your cuts. Obviously, take off little bits at a time, and then sort of just kind of work your way into where you want to be. Make sure you've got a nice relief here so that when it flexes, it doesn't chew this up. So we'll come over here to this bumper. So I've got the stock bumper skin laid out, and you can see I pulled this off of the front driver's side, laid back out perfectly. So I am just going to I'm actually going to do this with a piece of tape. I'm going to lay it right back down. Right back down here. And right there's the cut we're going to make. And I'm going to stop my tape back here. If you ever wondered why every time you see somebody doing body work, they've got it covered in painter's tape, it's because if you're using a jigsaw, which is actually a great tool, I like to use a jigsaw with a fine tooth blade on it. We're in our install shop today, so I've got a little Mac air saw that works really well. But if you're using the guide on whatever tool you're using to cut, you don't want to scratch, you know, this side of your paintwork that you're going to put back on your truck. So it's just more of a safety precaution so you don't scratch up your bodywork. All right, but one thing you want to do before you make the cut, because we're going to be cutting back in here, this inner plastic piece and all of our fog light assembly, that's all got to get removed and popped out. So we'll flip this over. Also, depending on how you're going to wire up your lights, your pod lights, some people like to wire them up to the factory fog light switch. I actually like to not do that. I just put my pod lights and my light bars all on individual switches so I can control them whenever I want. So if I want to run around with my truck with just the parking lights or the DRLs on, I can turn on or off whatever lights I want. You can't really do that with the stock fog light setup. And I'll start popping out the wire harness. We'll get this guy out of here. That one's out, and that one can stay. All right, now we got to pop all of these clips. So you're going to push that tab down, work our way around. Let's try and get that bezel out. And all of these have to get popped out too. Once you get a few of these tabs through, you just want to kind of keep good pull tension on the center section as you work your way down, and they'll just keep popping out. Push those tabs down. There you go, see, it keeps sliding out. I'll get this bottom side up here done too. Okay. Pry those up, pop back. Miss one down here? I sure did. All right. Cool. And this, I guess I did want to pull that out. This last tube. Wire harness clips out of here. And then you can get out of my face. That is out. Nice. We will unhook the fog light harness. That pops out. This is easy. Just push that tab down and then wiggle the whole housing back and forth. We'll set that aside. Flip it back over here, and I will show you where we're going to make the rest of our cut. All right, what we're going to do for our cut is we're going to come here to where this fog light surround is, and we're going to cut on the inside 90 back in there. We're going to cut that all the way out. So I'll probably start here, come down, cut down. Then I'm going to follow this line right here. We'll go all the way down and around, drop down, and right back out. I use a little air saw from Mac Tools, so it's nice, lets you do really small details. You go a little slow. The other thing too is because you're cutting plastic, you want to go slow and take your time, but the blade's moving so fast that it heats the plastic up, so as you cut through it, it kind of re-melts behind. So make a little bit of a cut and then stop, and you kind of want to break the plastic apart behind it, because you'll cut all the way through this and you'll go, what the heck? And it's literally remelted itself. And that's okay, just bend it back and forth, it'll snap apart. All right, we got it all cut. I clipped it in on the passenger side and it looked pretty good. We need to make a little adjustment over there. I'll sneak this in behind the fender flare Get that pushed down. And I think it's close enough to get this thing fit back up on here. Have to kind of push in on the bottom a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna have to come back through and trim, but that is okay. The good news is we're really, really close. So you can see the fender flare cut is perfect, but we need to come up here. So I'm gonna grab my Sharpie, use the bumper plate as a guide, trace out a line, we'll make our cut. I'm gonna make my cut underneath the fender flare so it drops down and I don't lose this mounting point, because that'll help keep our bumper skin, this plastic piece, on the truck. If you cut it and you can't bolt to anything, it's not the end of the world, but it's just more reinforcement. I don't want to lose that. All right, we got our finishing trim done on the side of the wings. It's looking really good. We've got a nice big gap here so that when the frame flexes in the body, it won't wreck all of our nice paintwork. Now let's throw these little push clips back in. Should take 6. There's one there, one right in there. Get that all buttoned up. There we go, there's 6 in there. All right, remember these nut plates that had that little handle thing on the top? Those, now that the bumper's pretty much tightened down, you just push them back over the top. They'll stay out of the way and they won't hook on anything. But I don't like to break them off, because what if I want to disassemble this? Well, I'm going to want those there. So I just lay them flat like that. Okay, last thing, and we were so close, and I know you don't want to pull the bumper shell off, neither do I, but there's one awesome feature that Ironman 4x4 has included in the X-Raid bumpers, and that is this locking pin. So that's what this hardware is for here. You got 2 of these bad boys. Where do they go? I'll show you. So inside of the bumper here, where the mount is, where the bumper shell hangs, there is a pre-drilled hole in that mounting plate. So you've got your 1, 2, 3 mounting bolts, hardware. Take a paint pen and right in the center, put a little dot. And we'll do the same on the other side. That's where we're gonna drill a hole, and then we can put our locating pin in. Just to expand on what is a locking pin, it's just like a set screw. Once this bumper's on, if you wanna, you have it all set, you know exactly where your alignment is, it looks perfect. Well, if you ever have to take the bumper shell off to take lights out or do something to it and you go to put it back on, it's a huge hassle to have to sit there and reline everything back up. If you install this locating bolt, you undo the locating bolt, take everything off, when you go put it back together, it aligns right back up where you had it. So it saves you so much time. All right, so we got the bumper shell back off. Now we're gonna mark and drill those through pin holes. There we go. Drill a little pilot hole to get things going. All right, bumper shell's back on, so we'll grab our hardware and 2 13mm wrenches. And then I sneak my hand through the opening in the front of the bumper shell. And we will also carefully spin that serrated flange nut on. Try it right in here. Stupid bolt, I win again. Not always though. A lot of times the bolt wins. I lose. All right, just to kind of tie off the front of the install, make it look really nice, we're gonna cut our stock inner fender liners, and then we'll get them all zip tied up here. So you can pull them out, not use them if you don't want to, but I've found that I like to use my inner fender liners as much as I can, because it'll just keep mud and crap out of the back of the bumper, out from behind the lights, and it looks really good. So I'm gonna start slow, just take off a little bit and keep working my way up. I want to make sure we have an extra nice fitment when this goes back together. So I'm going to take some double-sided tape and run it right down here from the OEM tape to the front. Then when we clip it all back together, it'll lay in there nice and tight. And when you're going 1,000 miles an hour on the freeway, it won't catch any wind and pull away. So we'll lay that down like that. Get some good adhesion here. Cool. That looks clean. And don't forget to put all those 10mm fender liner bolts back in. All right, we can get the grill in and just, the bottom snaps in. The top fits right over there like that. That goes down and snap. Other side, right by the headlight. We'll button down these two 10 mils that go on the grill brackets. All right, we'll get our license plate set up on here. This guy right here. Sweet. And this adjustable flip up license plate bracket is pretty friggin' sweet. So it'll hide your fair lead, your hawse, your rope, helps keep bugs and water and other crap out of there, and other debris. So that concludes the install of the Ironman 4x4 XO Raid front bumper on this Sport Tacoma. I think it looks so tough. I really, really like it. It's got the 9500 synthetic rope monster winch on it, 30-inch light bar, light pods. This thing looks tough and it's ready to get out and get after it. So I hope this video helped. I know sometimes these install videos go a little bit long, but we like to be really, really detail oriented so that your install can look its absolute best. And if you're just kind of perusing the interwebs and are thinking about possibly getting one of these, you can find more information about it at Ironman4x4America.com, or you can talk to a real person at 971-264-9016. They won't be weird if you don't be weird. That's a deal. Also, you can find us at YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you like to nerd out while you turd out, get a magazine. Ironman 4x4 is in a bunch of awesome off-road magazines. We've got cool articles. So next time you plan on taking a potty break, grab one of those and read it. Goodbye.